Hello, welcome to JenPenCreations. I'm Jen. Today, I want to talk about another thing that I found online that I find very, very interesting. Like I said, I love conspiracies. I love just weirdness, unexplained things that happen, aliens. I just like to hear those stories. I'm really, really interested in that, and I have my own opinions on it. Today, I want to talk about the weird, unexplained time slips that people have. Missing time, people from other weird places that just, in our time, it just doesn't make sense. And my own personal visions and stuff that I've experienced with time slips and weirdness. So let's talk about it today. Stay with me and I'll get right to it. So I first want to talk to you about a story I saw online. Actually, I've seen it numerous times. I've watched quite a few videos about this particular story, and it actually triggered me wanting to make this video. And then I remembered that I've had my own experiences with time slips and visions and stuff. And so if you stick around long enough, you'll hear about my own personal experiences with it that I'll talk to you about after I tell you about the stories that really piqued my interest and got me to make this video in the first place. The first one is about a man. The story starts out as he is on a flight to Japan on business. He falls asleep on his flight. No big deal. We all kind of do that. I know I've fallen asleep on airplanes before. It's not uncommon. And he woke up in Japan and he goes through customs and stuff and has to show them his passport, and customs kind of takes him aside because his passport looks a little different and he's not understanding what's going on, and the airport security or whatever, they're not understanding what's going on. And he's like, can we get this done? I have a meeting. I have a business meeting. I'm here on business and I really need to get to my meeting and I don't have a whole lot of time. They're like, yeah, but sir, where exactly are you from? And he looks at them all strange and he says, well, I'm from Taured. And they're like, okay, from where? I've never heard of that place ever. And then he starts describing this little country and where it's located on the map. They pull out a map and they ask him, show us on this map where exactly Taured is, where you're from. He looks at the map and he sees countries around where Taured is supposed to be and the countries that surround it, and he's like, that is where Taured is. That I don't know what that is. Nobody else understood why he was calling some other area of the map Taured when it was not called that. And he was very adamant about it, and they wouldn't let him go, and he was kept in like a holding cell or whatever at customs. His passport looked completely legit other than the fact that it came from a country that doesn't exist. At least not in our timeline anyway. And this story, I've read about it numerous times about this man from Taured. And he ends up disappearing. He's gone. He just disappeared. The door is still locked. He just is gone. And nobody knows where really he came from or where he actually went. Another one that actually has been on my mind since I was a very small child because I learned about it in school is the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, we've all heard about the Bermuda Triangle, right? Like, I guess that there's like certain elements or something that causes hallucinations or something. Apparently there's some sort of science behind the hallucinations and getting lost out there and end up crashing and just disappearing, really. There's a lot of speculation around the Bermuda Triangle. I know that some of it has been debunked because of science. I think that a lot of that stuff has been talked about, but there have been people who have experienced, they know that they have experienced time lapses while they were on boats or in airplanes going through the Bermuda Triangle. And I've read a lot of stories about those. And I'm certain you have too. I know I've been told them since I was in grade school. It's one of those things that you learn in school and you can just become obsessed with. I don't know about you, but the Bermuda Triangle was super duper interesting because there was a lot of disappearances happening there, and I'm pretty positive it's still happening there. Apparently they found Amelia Earhart's plane or something. I know she disappeared somewhere around the Bermuda Triangle. There's evidence as to where she went and what happened to her, but it could have been that her plane lost control, or she lost controls of her plane because of the elements or whatever that are around there and causing these disruptions, and could have hurt her a lot. Or Air Force that have been flying airplanes through there that really actually feel like they experienced time lapses and went to different places, were in different scenarios. And none of it's explained, really. I guess it can be explained, by hallucinations. Some of it can. But, I mean, a lot of what people experience is what they can see and touch. And if it's not tangible, usually it's something from the brain. But if it's a tangible thing and they could touch things and they could smell things and they could see, I understand hallucinations, but I just feel like, how could it be just write it all off as every single person who has had an experience there is just somehow having hallucinations and crazy. I understand how it can happen individually, but everybody, all these people, all these accounts of it, Now, the last thing I want to talk about is missing time and visions. Sometimes people get knocked on the head and they miss time. They're knocked out for a certain amount of time and they don't remember that. Sometimes you're sitting at a campfire talking to your friend and all of a sudden some flash happens and you're sitting in the same camp spot, but your fire's been out for hours and you don't know what happened. There's UFO cases like that with missing time, and those are all unexplained time slips. A lot of the missing time slips are people who claim to encounter UFOs and aliens and stuff. And I understand that too. There's been a lot of military and scientists trying to explain away people's UFO sightings and alien encounters. But those are also unexplained. They try to explain them away, but some of their explanations just don't make sense. So it continues to make you wonder. And it falls under the same disguise as unexplained. Now, I've had my own experiences in the unexplained time slips, feeling like I stepped into the Twilight Zone just walking down the street. It's happened to me twice where I've had visions. I do believe one of them was a vision of like some sort of future, some sort of timeline's future. I don't know if it's mine or I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but it felt like a future timeline. The second one was definitely past. It was like I stepped into the past in one spot on the sidewalk. I stepped forward again and I was back where I was. I had a friend who was very, very close to me for quite a few years. And me and her used to go walking through mountain towns on the west side of Colorado Springs. We would walk and hike and walk and hike. And as we were coming down through the main part of town, down a hill, we stopped by this very old building. It used to be a bank. And as we stopped there, I froze. It was so weird and freaky. I was looking around in that spot. I could look around and see the buildings that were there, but almost like they were brand new from like the late 1800s, early 1900s, because that's when this mountain town was established and the buildings were being built brand new. Was in that time. And they all looked brand new. Even though in my time right now, they all look very old and worn. Like, yes, people do still keep maintenance on them to keep them standing. But of course, they're going to look their age. They're very old. But when I stood there staring down that street, it was like straight down the road. And I could see every building on either side, brand new with beautiful, the awnings all covered in beautiful, weird, different fabrics than what I'd ever seen in those buildings. And then my friend grabbed my arm because she had like continued walking. And she came back, realized that I wasn't with her. She came back and she grabbed my arm. And as soon as I moved, I was no longer there. I was back in the same time space that I'm in now. And it was just the weirdest thing. And I realized that when we would take our walks, normally we walked on the other side of the street. We never walked directly in front of the bank. We always walked on the other side of the street. That day we walked in front of the bank, and any other time after that we walked in front of that bank, I would just be transported. And it was like instant photograph. It's so weird. I had the same experience at an apartment complex that I was living at with my second husband and my children when he was helping me raise them. We lived right on a creek that actually was notorious for flash flooding during rains, like heavy rains. And I don't think that's relevant to the story, but we lived on that creek, and that's the sidewalk that we walked all the time, right by our apartment complex. Now, we would walk all the way down to the south side end, and it ended at a busy road. So we wouldn't cross that road. We would just turn around and walk back. When we would get close to the actual apartment complex that we lived in, I could stand back in a spot and look up at the apartments. And in that spot, I saw all those apartments falling apart, rusted out, and trashed. And I'm going to tell you, yes, we lived there a while ago. It was probably 2014, about 10 years ago. They still don't look like that. They still look very nice. They're still very well kept. I don't know if that was a different timeline, weird kind of time slip, or if it was this timeline just way in the future, or if it was just some weird figment of my imagination that manifested itself in a vision. Like maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe both times I was hallucinating and I just didn't get it. I just don't know. But it's so weird because every time we would walk past there in that spot, I would look up at those buildings and the carports that go with them and see the rusted falling down carport, the broken windows, boarded up doors, stuff like that of this apartment. And I'm like, weird, because those apartments still don't look like that. So I'm not sure, but it was every time we walked past it. Every single time. Just like with me and my friend walking through the mountain towns, every time I'd walk on that side of the street past the bank, pow, I was transported back. It's just so weird. It's like the weirdest feeling. And I didn't have that in the place where I grew up. Now, I do want to talk about paranormal experiences as well, because I've had a few of those. Those happened back east, in the place where I was born and raised. But for some reason, these weird visions of the past and the future just never happened to me back there. And they didn't even happen to me when I lived in Denver. They've only happened to me since I've lived down south here. And I haven't had another one in a long time, but I also haven't gone back to walk those streets. Or that pathway that I used to walk behind the apartment. So let me know if these stories intrigued you. Have you ever had a time slip? Something weird made you feel like you went in time, some direction, forward, backward? Tell me about it. I'd like to know that I'm not alone out here in this weird, crazy awkwardness that I just exploded online. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. Maybe I gave you something to think about. Who knows? Maybe now you realize that you're not the only one who has this weirdness, and maybe we can talk about it. I hope that your day is absolutely wonderful, magnificent. Go out and do something for you today. Maybe go take a walk and slip in time or something. But I will see you in the next one. Bye.